All right,
There
let's
you
go.
go.
All right, so the topic today would be...
Well, you gotta welcome our
Hi,
audience.
welcome to Team GPT Podcast. I'm a guy. These are other guys.
Just guys being dudes,
Just
man.
guys being dude guys.
Yeah.
The topic today, we're going to talk about long-term plans as an athlete and as a coach. So setting how long in advance you would plan out a program as a coach, how long in advance you're thinking as an athlete. So I guess we can just start off saying, as a coach for you, if someone is a beginner coming to you, how long would you typically make a plan in advance? Like, is there an end goal that you start off with?
I'm terrified by this question right off the bat,
All right.
because this could be such a long thing.
Well, put it
There
this
are
way.
books, there are
She said.
entire books about this. If someone walked in the door, day one says, "I want to power lift," minimum 12 weeks
As a coach.
as a coach.
But
Like,
as a gym owner, you're like, show up next day, we'll see what happens.
I think. I mean, if they've never competed, absolutely 12 weeks. That should be enough time that we can at least know the rules, learn the lifts well enough to be able, to execute them to standards, and do better than where they're at now. Someone who's been training before and has some background in it, maybe 6 weeks. But I mean, less than that, I think would be. I mean, yeah, you could do it. You literally could do one tomorrow, but that would not be effective.
Well, I guess if someone walked in, you'd want to figure out, if you had no clue of their background, you'd want to have
I would
an
say at least.
assessment to
I'd say
figure
at
out.
least 12 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to see how they move. I want to see how they squat, bench, and deadlift. If they know how to squat, bench, and deadlift. If they do, if they've done it before, like what were their numbers like? Where are they now? And try to get an idea of where we can be. The problem is with a beginner, in 12 weeks, they can add a lot to their total because their total might be nothing.
So the goal could change instantly.
I think setting a long-term plan for the beginner is very different because you're setting a plan of learning the lifts and getting better at the lifts and understanding how you move with all the lifts, and then competing, and then having your first total, and then having another 12 to 18 week block and beating that total. So I think it's a very different mindset.
But how common is that? Because at least for me, when I first came to the gym, I had some powerlifting knowledge because my friends were doing it before me. And they told me some things, and it wasn't until I was like, I really want to get better at this, that I went to go seek out a coach. Versus someone who has no experience at all with like weightlifting or powerlifting. It was just like, I want to get into this.
I mean, I would say it's rare. I've had a couple people that have walked in and been like, "I'm interested in lifting weights. I've never done it."
But you wouldn't start them off as powerlifters. You'd be like,
No, I mean,
it's-
and then to me, you're not a powerlifter until you do your first meet anyway. So in that regard, like, I'm teaching them the lifts, and depending on where they're at and their movement capabilities and their strength levels and everything, when I say teaching the lifts, like, we might be goblet squatting, we might be doing trap bar deadlift, we might be doing dumbbell bench press. They might not be ready for the full movements. And the thing is, by wanting to powerlift, like I said, you have to complete the lifts to a standard, and not everyone's ready to squat below parallel or deadlift from the floor or bench press to their chest. So it might take even more work to get them physically ready for those movements without causing an injury. So like I said, I would say minimum 12 weeks, but that doesn't mean everyone's ready in 12. But you're right, like, most people are going to come in with some background already.
yeah.
It won't be completely foreign. So that's a little bit different, where I think, like I said, they can maybe be ready in 6 weeks. But you still have to learn to lift to the standards of the federation, and just
they
be
get-
ready for the meet.
Yeah, I mean, we can approach this from like any standpoint. It could be, the goal can change on any day.
Yeah.
I think a good plan, once you've kind of assessed the person, is, setting a somewhat of a long-term goal. Have something in mind so you could build to something, but again, that could change on any minute. I guess so. I can ask you as like an athlete, like, do you have long-term goals? How do those long-term goals affect training right now? Do those ever affect you just walking into the gym, like your mindset?
Yes and no. Long term for me would be trying to be ready for like the May meet or regionals. And there are days where I feel like it's just so far away that my training is just like, I'm not going to take it as seriously as like if it was like 2 months out, right? I'm just sort of like in to like kind of maintain versus trying to like peak or something. So it's, as an athlete, I'm thinking long term, but nowhere near to the same degree as a coach. I'm just here because A, I love the sport, and B, I know that in some way, shape, or form, me being here is going to propel me to be better later on.
Okay.
So I don't like this is just for me. I know a lot of other people are like, I want to be here. We have the whole goal board where people are like, oh, I want these numbers in a year. As for me, it's just sort of like I'm more concerned about the consistency. My long-term goals is to be able to do this for a while.
Right.
Have longevity in the sport and just longevity in life.
Right.
Powerlifting might be something I'm doing for another 10 years maybe, right? But as other responsibilities come around, it's like I want to be able to just weightlift or just stay in shape.
Right.
And I feel like that's more the long-term goal I have for myself versus the powerlifting or making a career out of it. Because some people, that's their long-term goal. It's like, oh, I want to be so good that I get sponsored.
Right. I think that like kind of skews the trajectory.
Yes, good word.
That's also weird. We're doing well on words.
Yeah.
I think that can kind of skew someone's path. That's a
Yeah.
better word.
Well, I think you mentioned the goal board. I'm literally looking at people's goals right now. I was just trying to think about it, and some of them,
A lot of bullshit.
some of them are short-term goals. I can see up here, some people that are maybe 10 pounds away from their goal on a deadlift right now or a squat. And that's, to me, I would think of a 10-pound gain for someone who's still not advanced as as a relatively short-term goal. On the other hand, there's some numbers up here that, in my mind, it's a long-term goal. The thing that worries me is that the people that are writing them think it's a short-term goal.
Yeah.
So that changes the mindset too of, if I look at that and be like, wow, that's going to take a year, and you think it's going to take 12 weeks, then
timetable, like you said, longevity might.
then we're not on the same page. We got to fix that.
That's kind of like so the one achievable goal on there for me is to curl 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
But so I don't have my goals, like long-term goals up there. That's like, I want to make the Arnold one day. I want to be, I want to make prime time at nationals. I want to be the best I can fucking be at the sport.
Yeah.
And that might take years, but going back to like the longevity thing, like maybe I should start with being healthy and having some longevity so I can get there.
Yeah.
But that, there's so many different approaches as to how you would get to the goals. Like, how is Gary realistically going to get his head out of his ass? Is that going to be a long-term goal or a short-term goal? I think that what's cool about this is we have no fucking clue their timetable. So
Yeah.
that probably means something to them that's different than what we see.
Yeah, and I think we're getting a little off the top of long term, but like with the goal thing, you've got some coaches that would tell you put your goals out there because it gives you something to hold yourself to, because like we can look up at this board and see everyone's goal.
Yeah.
And some of these, like, I just caught Aaron's goals: 530 squat, 370 bench, 630 deadlift. Aaron just squatted 518 at nationals, so he's not. That's 12 pounds off. He just benched 363. It's only 7 pounds off. That's not a crazy goal, but I think he also understands that now we're not in a peaking cycle, so he's not going to hit those numbers for a while anyway, because we're going to try to build some more strength. Where I'm trying to see if there's anyone that's got like a really like a big goal.
Well, Matt Baxter, he wants to reach the ultimate limit of physics.
Yeah, like that might take some time.
I don't think so. I think he's close.
Given quantum, I'm not gonna go into it.
Actually, I mean, like looking at most of these, I think most of these are probably relatively short-term goals.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good thing, and keep some of those long-term goals in your pocket. So like when you hit these, there's always a stepping stone to the next one. Mm-hmm. I really like I like the idea of putting out your small goals and trying to chip away at them. I also the quote from Chip Kelly, the football coach, where he said, "Win the day."
Yeah.
So like where you were saying, like trying to maintain on a daily basis. I think every day there's like that little goal that you can get, and that little goal might be getting to the gym.
Yeah.
Or it might be, it's a heavy day and I'm telling you to work up on doubles, and you're like, okay, I'm going to try to go above the number that you gave me. Or it might be a volume day and you're trying to get the volume in a quicker way, so the density of the workout goes up, so it's something you haven't done before. So there's always little things that you can work at, and every little thing will chip away at each slightly bigger thing, which will chip away at these goals, which will then chip away your big goals.
So what you're saying is balance is good.
Yeah, like I think people get too caught up in, especially in lifting, because it's just easy in certain numbers.
Yeah.
I talked about the meet that I just judged last weekend, where unfortunately we had a lot of women at that meet that were really chasing that 300-pound deadlift, so they were going for 137.5 kilos, 303 on the bar, and I think like 6 women in a row missed. Where if I'm not saying they would have gotten 135 keys, like 297, but they might have. But the thought of, I want to get 303, and then later on in the day when the guys went, a lot of the guys kept going 227, which is 501.
Yeah.
And if they went 496, maybe they would have gotten it, and they could have played the long term of like, okay, I've got another meet, I'll get 501 next time, or maybe I'll get 507 because I'm even ahead. But they were all shooting for 501, and we had a lot of guys miss, and so they didn't have the performance they wanted to do, and now the next time they're out, are they going to shoot for 501 again? Or are they going to go to a heavier number? That's tough. To try to pull it back to like the long-term planning, I think depending on the level of the lifter. So before we started recording, I was saying like how a lot of you guys just came back from nationals. So I'm immediately thinking on a year basis. Everyone that came back from nationals, where are we going to be next year? Mm-hmm. So when we go to nationals again, how much of a PR can we set going in 1 year? And I know that most of you are going to do at least the May meet in between, if not more meets. And there's a lot of steps between where I want you to be now and where I want you to be for next nationals. But I'm thinking ahead to nationals, so at least 1 year. Mm-hmm. I know Eva last year after nationals, I put a note on my phone and just showed it to her, and she's like, "That's crazy." I was like, "That's your 3-year goal."
But those are good to have. I mean, it shouldn't be driving you completely. Like in the moment, you might have thought, like, "Fuck, that's like tomorrow." Like that number time to hit that.
Yeah, like so I said, that was a 3-year goal that I think is very doable. But sometimes it's hard to conceptualize. Like, man, 3 years, like, because you don't know what's going to happen in 3 years. Yeah. Like, and that's why he said the goals can always be changing, because Syed, I can see your goal up there. Your bench goal up there was 300.
Yeah.
You hit 315 the other night.
Crushed.
Which is something I thought I would never be able to do. Like, if you asked me, like, last year, right, where do you think you'd be bench? I'd be like 275 max. Like,
so
to bench 315, to be squatting over 500, is something that I wouldn't ever conceive.
But which is
First, when I first started working out,
Yeah.
right, I was scared to go 315,
Right.
because no one would spot me. And I was like, if I hit the bottom and I can't get up, right,
But
I'm
that's-
stuck in the Smith machine.
That's what's cool about. I mean, that's what I like about the sport. It's super accessible, and I mean, it's accessible to everybody. But like, you might be able to reach goals where like you might not be able to make the NFL if you start playing football, but you might be able to squat 100 one day, and that's
Yeah.
cool because like goals are actually somewhat achievable.
If you have a long-term goal, at least in this sport, and you are consistent and just follow sound principles of training and you kind of just stick to it, you can do a lot of really impressive things.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of our national champions for USA Powerlifting are older.
It's like over 30, like for the most part.
Yeah, like I mean, we've got we had a couple masters or very close to master age lifters that won the Open,
Yep.
and that's common around the world too. I think everyone expects, oh, like 25 years old, you're going to be, peaking, and a lot of these people are not, are well into their 40s, or you get someone like Dave Ricks and Tony Harris, who, sorry guys, are like 57, 58.
Yep.
And are winning the Open.
Correct
and,
us if we're wrong.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That are like winning nationals or very close to it and going to worlds and beating their counterparts that are 23 years old.
Yeah.
And you think like in an athletic endeavor, the 23-year-old should be killing the 58-year-old, but the 58-year-old being at it for 35 years and just being consistent and chipping away and having, I'm sure, like, a short-term goal here, a short-term goal here, but it sounds like nothing. But if you add, 2.5 kilos to your squat, so 5.5 pounds every 12 weeks, at the end of the year, you're like, man, I'm only up 10 kilos. I'm like, yeah, but in 5 years, you're up 50 kilos.
Yeah.
Now you're up 110 pounds, and if you do this for 10 years, now you're up 220 pounds. Now your squat is literally up 220 pounds, where in that 12-week block you only went up 5 pounds. Like you just said, squatting over 500. Like, if you're squatting 5 now, and in 12 weeks you're squatting 505, a lot of people find it to be a failure. Where if you then can squat 510, 515, 520, 525, and you keep going down the line, like I said, 10 years from now, you're squatting 720. Now, I get that that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if you can keep chipping away at that, that's 720 pounds. Like,
Yeah.
or even like sometimes you might have a year where like the whole year you might only add 5 pounds. But then the next year you add more, or the year before you added 50 instead of 20. You have to have that long-term number in mind, but still chip away at it and have that understanding that 5 pounds now is worth a lot more later, and you don't have to make the plate jumps, or you have to hit these milestone numbers. Like they'll get there if you keep training. And for some people at the higher levels, we're talking even longer. We've got some younger athletes that are putting up some pretty serious numbers right now. And I know that they're going to want to hit numbers very quickly. And some of them, they've told me some of their numbers, and I hope we can get there in that time frame. But if not, like, I hope they understand that it's still there.
Yeah.
And in 4 years, if they can keep chipping away, because they are young, that in 4 years,
We can be well past that.
yeah. Like, I'm thinking, I look at it as I see some of these numbers on the board, and I'm like, in 4 years, these are going to be nothing. We were actually talking, I'm going to use Eva again. I have a picture of the PR board from where we started in my parents' garage, and Eva had the record for women's weight, for women, like we had 3 women. But this was 4.5 years ago. And I'm sorry that I'm putting out your low numbers, Eva, but like,
Shout out.
she squatted like 176, I think, like when we were in the garage. It might not have been that much. It might have been less than that. She benched 95 and deadlifted. I think it was like 230. I think it was a 230 deadlift. So like a lot of people know Eva as for her deadlift, and like so 4 years ago she deadlifted 230.
People do that all the time.
Like
now.
she's pulled 430 with room in the tank.
Yeah.
Like, and again, that's a 4-year span, and I know a lot of people see it. Well, like, yeah, but, she went from 230 to 315 in like a year and a half, and then she went from 315 to like 365 when she switched to sumo in a day. But like over 4 years, she added 200 pounds to her deadlift, and I know it. As progression has slowed, like it's tougher to be like, oh, I'm only going up 5 pounds this year, or 15 pounds this year, or whatever. But like, it's still going.
But that's what, like, especially with strength sports, where there's a very obvious measure of improvement. Like, in basketball, like, your competition could change. A lot of things could change. Like, you could be hitting more baskets throughout your career, but, like, you could have down. Like, there's a definite path of improvement that is very visible. Mm-hmm. And people lose sight of that because they just keep getting reminded of it, like, well, I need to improve this. Mm-hmm. But there's a million other ways to improve in general in the sport. I think people get lost. Our sport is numbers, but, like, people get lost in the numbers.
Well,
there's a lot more shit you can improve at.
Yeah.
We talked about when we talked about meet attempt selection, we had 21 lifters at nationals, and 20 of which hit a PR in something.
Yeah.
The squat, bench, dead, or total. When you think about that, that means, almost everyone did something they've never done before. They improved. They clearly improved. And the only one that didn't came in second in the country. So, like, we played the game to make sure she got that positioning. Mm-hmm. And Ayla had an injury, so it was a little bit different. But, like, so she didn't hit a PR in anything. But she came in second in the country.
Which is a PR in place.
Correct.
So
she got something.
There you go.
But I think
only one person could be second in the country.
But also, I would even say that, like, stuff's like, oh, life PR, like, that's stupid. But, like, that's your first time at a big national event. You get a ton of experience.
Yeah.
Don't discredit that.
Right.
Because that pays off. Yes, all the work I've done in here has paid off. Everything I've done, at a meet has paid off. But, like, people I've met, experience I've gotten, like, has paid off equally as much as the training I've done in here.
And I'm just saying, like, yeah, there's always something where I think if you talk to a lot of our people right after they competed, a lot of people were not happy with their numbers because they wanted more, which is great. You should want more, but you should also be happy with your improvement. So there's that line of you're proud of what you've worked for and what you've achieved, but you still want to do more. Yeah. And I think too many times it just if you didn't hit the big numbers, it's looked at as a failure. We need to break away from that mindset a little bit. But like we just said, like using an example, like we had you bench a lot less in the last cycle, and you PR'd your bench in a bench only meet. You PR'd your bench in a full meet, mm-hmm. While benching significantly less than you normally do, mm-hmm. but also had your best squat and deadlift in meets, right? Mm-hmm. So
yeah, there's a million, and if I look at it, like, my goal was to manage stress and not let, like, of coaching all week with you and, like, warming up everybody. And my goal seemed modest to people, but that was, but I told everybody, like, how'd you make it? I'm like, well, I did well, and I hit my goal of doing well while managing a ton of other stress. Like, that meant the most to me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I think that that's not going to be the same for everyone, but, like, learn to appreciate something that you are improving at, mm-hmm. that isn't the weight on your back.
But you've been powerlifting for a while, right? So when it comes to the goal of being, like, able to handle the stress, mm-hmm. is definitely something that comes from experience on having meets that didn't go as well as you thought,
Right.
or not feeling as great,
Right.
versus someone who's just in the game, who like just started competing, and you know, at local meets there's not a lot of competition. They start winning and start
Right.
competing, so now it's just a pursuit for numbers, and because the winning is so like
Tangible.
immediate,
Yeah.
right, and like tangible, it's like I have to win every time. I have
Yeah.
to get big numbers.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, keep going, keep doing that, but also like if you're sort of like a flare, right? It's really cool at first, but then it just burns out if you
Yeah.
don't train properly.
Which
If you
goes
don't-
back to our point of like setting a long-term
yeah,
plan.
you have to have a set long-term understanding. Like, if I want to play, if I want to be part of this sport and play the game right, and if I want to be a champion later on, right, you have to focus on sort of what you can accomplish now
Right.
to get there,
Right.
versus having all just. I mean, I want to win too, right?
But like you just said, like there's a million things that you can work at to get better, and to hit those bigger numbers. So it might be just something as simple as like, oh, I need stronger triceps. So like, I'm gonna hit more tricep stuff and get stronger on that. And like, that's a goal. Like your goal is to get, and like, and that goal will carry over to benching more weight, which will carry over to having a bigger total, which will carry over to winning more meets. So like,
Also looking cooler.
looking cooler, fill out your shirts.
See my hat.
Yeah, you look pretty cool.
And I think people need to understand that like stepping stone of like each thing is having an effect on something else, which is having an effect on something else, which will lead to
Something better.
these bigger goals. I'm going to use Aaron again as an example. Aaron, after last nationals, decided to cut a weight class. So Aaron dropped around 30 pounds and did regionals after about a 30-pound weight cut, and the numbers at his new body weight weren't what we were hoping for. So he trained the rest of his, but qualified for nationals. Trained at that body weight for the rest of the time for nationals. Aaron had a 40 kilo or 88 pound total PR from his last meet at this body weight. That's insane. But he knew that it was going to take a while because he dropped the whole weight class. But then when you look at his numbers from last year to this year, while weighing 31 pounds less, he actually only totaled 5 pounds less than he did last year. And Aaron's one of the best ones we have at looking long term, of not being like, oh, I gotta do this right now.
Yeah.
And that's been good. Aaron had a big deadlift 4 or 5 years ago. He pulled 622, I think, in Scranton, and his deadlift has been pretty stagnant since then, up and down with a couple different changes. He just recently switched to sumo, but at that meet, I think he benched like 314. He just hit a 50 pounds up in his bench from that. I think he only squatted like 446 then. He just squatted 518. So he's been good about that, of like, all right, just keep chipping away and these numbers are going to fall. And we had a couple guys that hit big goals. And you went over 1400 for the first time, right?
Yeah.
Mark
That was only 6 pounds. Like, that's my previous total PR was like 1396. But like, my goal was like break 1400. It's 6 pounds. It's easily achievable. But like, that was my goal. And it's not like,
right.
doesn't have to be that, but-
Mark's a great lifter. Mark just went over Mark just hit 1600 for the first time. Aaron's like just under 1500. That's been a goal I know he's had for a while. He's going to get that very soon. But they've been like, you guys have been chipping away at it.
yeah.
Even though I knew Mark's big goal was 1600, like he wanted that 1600, and it's been a little while, but now he got it. Like, he kept working at it. I know you wanted over 1400, and we had a couple meets where like if things played a little bit differently, you probably would have had it earlier.
Yeah.
But now you had, what'd you total this year? 1436.
Yep.
So we were shooting for 1400, and we got 36 extra pounds. Like,
That's
That's
the way you look at it.
huge.
That's like your outlook could really dramatically affect how you perceived all the work you did, like how it paid off and how you go into the next cycle. So like, I had a huge PR and I'm gonna like chip at it away for the next meet, but like, I've seen people think like, well, I didn't hit like, I was like 5 pounds off my big goal. I was like, all right, well then make that your goal for next year. Like, smash that. Like, it's, not everyone's. It shouldn't be like everyone's goals are not going to be the same. How they look, everything's not going to be the same. But I mean, make it healthy at least
Which one's my camera? This one?
to health. That's there.
This
Both of them are yours.
Well, okay. Do you want to achieve your goals? We online coach. Visit gpt.com.
Yeah, that's probably a good one.
Thank you so much for listening. To send in questions, DM me on Instagram at Syed_likes_stuff. Follow the gym on Instagram at Team GPT. For more information about the gym, visit GleasonPerformance.com and join the team. For online coaching, go to teamgpt.com.